नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल, राम राम सा, हमारी वणक्कम, प्रणाम। आप सभी को ऑल्टरनेट मीडिया में फिर से स्वागत है। मैं आपकी होस्ट गायत्री देवी। हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं विक्रम सूद सर, द फॉर्मर चेयरपर्सन या फिर मैं बोलूंगी फॉर्मर हेड ऑफ द वेरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन रॉ, जिसके बारे में हम इतनी बातें करते हैं, इतना डिटेल डिस्कशंस करते हैं, एंड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन वी आर रियली रियली प्राउड ऑफ। एंड सर आज मेरे साथ आए, मिले, बहुत गर्व की बात है, एंड आई डोंट हैव वर्ड्स टू डिस्क्राइब इट। सर, अ वेरी वार्म वेलकम ऑन द शो।
Thank you, Gayatri, for calling me. And like last time, I think we'll enjoy our discussion. And
जी सर।
let's see
सर
what.
आज मैं थोड़े से टफ क्वेश्चंस पूछने वाली हूँ। आज थोड़ा सा तो टफ हो जाएगा, देखिए आप मुझे बता दीजिएगा पहले ही। जी सर, इंटेलिजेंस हमारे फॉरेन रिलेशंस को और साथ के साथ हमारी सिक्योरिटी को बहुत डिटेल में डिफाइन करता है। तो क्योंकि ये डिस्कशन थोड़ा सा लंबा होगा, आई थिंक हम पहले डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशन से डिस्कस करेंगे। दुश्मनों के ऊपर तो हमारी निगाह बहुत तेज तरार रहती है, बिकॉज वी नो दे आर एनिमीज। जैसे पाकिस्तान हो गया, बांग्लादेश हो गया, हमें पता है ये हमारे दुश्मन देश हैं। बट व्हाट अबाउट द इंटेलिजेंस जिनको हम दोस्त मानते हैं, या फिर जिनका हमें लगता है कि डामाडोल है, जो जिसको हम बोलते हैं भेड़ की क्या शीप, वोल्फ इन द गार्ब ऑफ शीप। तो उस टाइप में बहुत सारे लोग प्रिटेंड करते हैं। तो वहां पर कैसे चलती हैं चीजें? हाउ डू वी टेक द इंटेलिजेंस फॉरवर्ड? जी।
ऐसा है, for an intelligence organization, diplomats also, आज का दोस्त कल का दुश्मन भी हो सकता है, और कल का दुश्मन आज भी दोस्त हो सकता है। तो आप किसी को इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते, ये तो दोस्त है मेरा, इसको क्या है। आपको खबर तो रखनी पड़ती है, भले ही उसको आप इस्तेमाल करें ना करें, आपको मालूम तो होना चाहिए आपका दोस्त किस तरफ जा रहा है या क्या करने वाला है। तो प्रायोरिटी पे बना लेते हैं हम लोग, मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थ्रेट टू लीस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थ्रेट, और मोस्ट लाइकली थ्रेट टू लीस्ट लाइकली थ्रेट। सिमिलरली फ्रेंड्स का आप उनको, यू कैन डिवाइड देम इनटू प्रोबेबिलिटीज कि क्या होने वाला है, क्योंकि रिसोर्सेज तो लिमिटेड हैं, मैन पावर और टेक्नोलॉजी, फाइनेंस। तो सारा कुछ जैसे अमेरिकन करते हैं हम वैसा नहीं कर सकते। अमेरिकन तो ग्लोबल पावर है, हर एक जगह उनका इंटरेस्ट है। हमारा नेशनल इंटरेस्ट तो नेबरहुड है और इम्पोर्टेंट कंट्रीज हैं फॉर इकोनॉमिक, मिलिट्री, science and technology, whatever reason. The bigger, richer countries are prospective friends, your neighborhood, and the surrounding areas. That's what you want to concentrate on. Now, the Americans can have 700 plus 800 military bases outside, all over the globe. फिर उन्होंने दुनिया को अपने कमांड्स में बना रखा है, पैसिफिक कमांड और the Indo-Pacific Command, the CENTCOM, Northern Command, Africa Command, so on so forth. तो वो ऐसे डील करते हैं, उनके पास their interests are global, their worries are global, their markets are global, तो सब कुछ उनका global जाता है, हमारा regional जाता है। China, Pakistan, the neighborhood. We need to know how America is going to deal with us, how Germany was going to deal with us. Whoever we want to be friends with, we want to know what's happening. बहुत सी इंफॉर्मेशन तो आजकल ओपन सोर्स से मिल जाती है, ओपन सोर्स ऑफ इंटेलिजेंस। और आजकल तो टेक्नोलॉजी का इतना चेंज हो गया है कि आप सोशल मीडिया पे जाइए तो आपको तरह तरह की खबरें मिल जाएंगी, राइट और रॉन्ग, फेक और रियल, सब मिलता है। उसमें प्रॉब्लम है कि आप डिफाइन कैसे करेंगे कौन सी फेक है, कौन सी रियल है, कौन सी स्लांटेड है, कौन सी इज अ प्लांट ऑन यू। ऑल दैट यू हैव टू लर्न टू डिस्टिंग्विश। सो we've had uneasy relations with China and Pakistan for ever since the beginning almost, and they naturally have consumed most of our time to find out what they're doing. And that has therefore been a limiting factor for us कि हम बाकी जगह कैसे करेंगे। बट जैसे आपकी जब हम शुरुआत में 47 के बाद में वी वर अ स्मॉल कंट्री, बिग इन साइज, बिग इन नंबर्स, बट अदरवाइज इन इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस नॉट ऑफ मच कॉन्सिक्वेंस। अब जो है हालात बदल गए हैं। We are now going the third largest economy, going to be a 4 trillion economy. So our interests have increased. Our worries have increased. Our rivals have increased. ये सब बढ़ गया है। तो आपको सब चीज़ों पे खबर रखनी होगी अब कि आपको कॉन्ट्रैक्ट चाहिए, आपको कंसेशंस चाहिए, आपको व्हाट इज द इकोनॉमी ऑफ द अदर कंट्री, हाउ डज इट इम्पैक्ट ऑन यू, how does it impact on you politically. So all these factors go into constituting your policy, and your policy is actually defined by what you define as your national interest. हम बनना क्या चाहते हैं और कब तक वो बनना चाहते हैं और क्या करना है उसके लिए, हमको ये करने के लिए, और हमको उस दौरान कौन सी अड़चने आएंगी, उनको कैसे टैकल करना है। अब जैसे कहने को तो हमारे बहुत दोस्त हैं, लेकिन कई दोस्त तो हमारे को टांग खींचते ही रहते हैं, हमारे कुछ ना कुछ लगे रहते हैं। कभी ये है, कभी निज्जर है, तो कभी कुछ ना कुछ लगाए रखते हैं। आप वहाँ से तेल क्यों लेके आए, आप उनको मिलने क्यों गए। तो ये these are issues that we have to deal with, to strike a balance between preserving your interests, अपना इंटरेस्ट को बढ़ाने के लिए, उसको सुरक्षित रखने के लिए, और आपको मदद चाहिए दूसरों की, दोस्तों की, जो कहते हैं आपके दोस्त हैं उनकी भी। आपको रिसोर्सेज चाहिए, रॉ मटेरियल चाहिए, मार्केट्स चाहिए। आपको यू वांट टू बी आत्मनिर्भर, तो आपको सब कुछ अपने यहाँ भी बनाना है। वो भी लोगों को नहीं पसंद आता, उसमें भी अड़चने आती हैं। फिर आपको कभी रिलीजन पे लेते हैं, कभी आपको ह्यूमन राइट्स पे लेते हैं, कभी आपको फ्री प्रेस के लिए लेते हैं। Those are obstacles that are created. Those have to be dealt with diplomatically by the diplomats, politically, and by the intelligence agencies, either to forewarn you or to prevent it or to do something in return. और सबसे बड़ी चीज़ जो है आजकल के दौरान, शुरू से है लेकिन आज तो बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया, आपकी कहानी क्या है, आप क्या नैरेटिव बना रहे हैं अपने लिए, दूसरों के लिए। हमको तो नैरेटिव शुरू से सिखाया गया कि हाँ, द वाइट मैन इज सुपीरियर, यूरोपियन, द वेस्टर्न इज सुपीरियर, आप तो यू बेटर लिसन टू अस। अब थिंग्स आर चेंजिंग, एंड so we have to make sure that it is our voice that is also heard, not a Western voice. अब आप देखिए, जब यूक्रेन का चल रहा था, अभी तक चल रहा है, जो अखबार में जो हमारे मेन लाइन न्यूज़पेपर्स में खबरें आती थी, मोस्टली फ्रॉम वेस्टर्न सोर्सेस, रॉयटर्स, CNN, AFP, CNBC, whatever, उन्हीं की आती थी। There was no Indian perspective, there was no Russian perspective, no, the other side of the story was not told to the average reader or listener. So that creates a story by itself. लोग तो वही पढ़ते हैं, the average man will read those papers, उसी से बना लेगा अपना सिस्टम। तो हमको अपनी आवाज़ भी उठानी पड़ेगी और उसके लिए बहुत मेहनत चाहिए। Takes a long time to spread your net all over. सब आपकी बात पे गौर तो करें, माने ना माने, सुने तो। अब तो वो भी नहीं है। So that is, people like you who spread the word that we also matter. Indian lives matter, no? ऐसा कुछ होना चाहिए. So that we are able to put our point of view across. Diplomacy is necessary. It is required. It keeps, when things get hot, there should be a contact with the other side. That should never be broken. और किसी से नाराज होकर नहीं बैठ जाना चाहिए, उससे बात नहीं बनती है. Unless there is ample reason for you not to talk to him. And you know what I mean by that. You can't have terrorism and friendship together. It doesn't work. So you have to either give up one or the other.
सर आप किसी ऐसे मौके के बारे में डिस्कस करना चाहेंगे जहाँ पे इंटेलिजेंस टोटली अगेंस्ट है किसी भी डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशन के, क्योंकि सिक्योरिटी थ्रेट्स रही हैं बैकग्राउंड में, बट येट वी आर हैविंग डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशंस. इस
नहीं,
तरीके के
ऐसा तो कोई, नॉर्मली तो आप वो करके चलते हैं ना, प्री डिस्कस करके होता है. इट्स नॉट एज इफ यू आर कॉट बाय सरप्राइज कि जी आपने तो ऐसा कर दिया, हमको तो पता ही नहीं. Normally it doesn't happen, and this probably happens in the West. It happens because there are power interests in each. State Department का अगला है, अपना है, पेंटागन का अपना है, व्हाइट हाउस का अपना है, कांग्रेस पीपल का मेन का अलग है. So हमारे यहाँ ऐसा नहीं है. We are not, either you can say we're not big enough for that, or we are not interested in that, or we find it much better to work in cooperation. Yes, sometimes you feel that this particular act need not have been done. It could have been avoided. But, a political decision need not be based on intelligence inputs. You can decide that I want to make friends with country A, and you may have told them it will not work. Well, they say, let me give it a try. Okay, then you give it a try. What can you do? Try it. We don't have an agenda of our own. And an intelligence agency, at least in India, it does not act on its own information. That is a policy decision to be taken by the policymakers, not by the intelligence agency. We are not Gestapo. You find him, he's a suspect, उसको पकड़ के धर लिया और बंद कर दिया. No, we don't do it like that. We work in a system where it is all discussed beforehand and decided what is the course of action. And diplomatic decisions are normally just diplomatic decisions with an input from intelligence. That's it.
So इसका मतलब इंटेलिजेंस अपना काम कर रहा होता है, कोई भी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी आए, कोई भी डिप्लोमेट आए, कोई लेना देना, मतलब एक सिस्टम कंटिन्यूअस है, वो चल रहा है अनलेस एंड अंटिल देयर इज अ पॉलिटिकल इंटरवेंशन इन दैट. हमने पीछे एक बार देखा था किस तरीके की हमारे इंटेलिजेंस नेटवर्क को मिडिल ईस्ट में पूरा का पूरा उड़ा दिया गया था जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ वन वाइस प्रेसिडेंट. इट हैपेंड इन पास्ट.
I'm not sure about that.
सर हमारी इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज कौन सी है जो पब्लिक डोमेन में है, जो बहुत अच्छा काम कर रही हैं, जिनके बारे में आप बताना चाहेंगे? जी, आई मीन पब्लिकली तो बहुत सारी हैं. जी,
intelligence agencies by themselves, there are three big ones: Intelligence Bureau for internal, RAW for external, and the National Technical Research Organization, which collects the tech int. These are the three. Then the military wing have their own intelligence agencies, which are the DMI, the DAI, and the DNI, and they have DIA, the Director of Intelligence and Defense Agency, is the head. They work on their own, but there is always this coordination and discussions and meetings that take place between them. I imagine they still do. Then then you have the DRI and all those financial organizations. Plus, but some paramilitaries also have their intelligence wings, but there it's only for cross-border. The main people dealing with external intelligence and terrorism are the IB, RAW, and the NTRO for terrorism, and I imagine the army also has inputs for that. So that is the intelligence setup of the country, leading to the NSA and then on to the Prime Minister or Home Minister, as the case may be.
And say these which of these organizations they collaborate with the international agencies and the exchange of
Sorry?
information. इनमें से कौन सी एजेंसीज हैं जो इंटरनेशनल एजेंसीज के साथ कोलैबोरेट करती हैं, एक्सचेंज ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन चलता है, एंड हाउ इज दिस एंटायर सिस्टम पास्ड ऑन टू द प्राइम मिनिस्टर एंड द पीएमओ?
I don't think we should go into the mechanics of this.
अच्छा, okay. Okay. Then sir, how is the information collected? Like जो ground level पे information collect की जाती है? मैम सर बहुत सारी तो मूवीज हम वैसे ही देखते हैं तो कुछ तो अंदाजा है.
Movies में जैसा है, movies just give you an exaggerated version of the reality. The reality is that today a lot of information is available from tech end than it was, say, when I was in service. It wasn't what it is like it is today. इंटरनेट तो हमारे हिंदुस्तान में तो चालू ही हो रहा था, अभी शुरू हो रहा था, और बाकी जो सोशल मीडिया का रेवोल्यूशन है, तो यूट्यूब एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स, दे प्रोवाइड यू अ लॉट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन, ओपन सोर्स इंफॉर्मेशन. They also mislead you because you don't know which is right and which is wrong. कब झूठ बोल रहे हैं, कभी फेक न्यूज़ दे रहे हैं, कभी मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन दे रहे हैं. तो ये सब आपको बैठ के फिर उसको थ्रेड से निकालना है, कौन सा सही है, कौन सा गलत है, चेक करें, सही हो सकता है कि नहीं हो सकता. So those give you instant pressure on the intelligence agency. हमारे टाइम में तो टीवी भी तो 2 ही चैनल होते थे, दूरदर्शन था और मेरे ख्याल में स्टार टीवी या एनडी टीवी आया था.
सर डीडी मेट्रो भी हुआ करता था, दूरदर्शन एंड डीडी मेट्रो, जिसपे सीरियल्स वगैरह आते थे.
हाँ, बस वही था, होता था. तो और न्यूज़पेपर भी आपको 3-4 ही न्यूज़पेपर होते थे. And so for us it was relatively easy. But now the pressure is immense. Now I think agencies have to go more and more for strategic intelligence. Intelligence आज की कल की तो आपको अखबारों में मिलती रहती है, आप उसको वेरीफाई करते रहो. I do not know how they handle it. I don't envy them one bit. And the other is, how do you cannot beat the TV or the newspaper today for tactical intelligence. कि वहाँ गदर हो गया जी, वहाँ मारकुटाई हो गई, बॉर्डर क्रॉस कर लिया. What happened in Lebanon is only from the social media and the newspapers. I don't think any intelligence organization actually picked it up and sent it out before this happened. I doubt. So only when it happened that people got to know. Like only when October 7, 23 happened that people got to know. At least the rest of the world. So these are things that that make life very difficult for the people actually handling intelligence today. You're swamped with information. You're swamped with data. How do you correlate it? How do you make any sense out of the whole thing? It's a very, very difficult job. And that's what I say, that looking ahead, say 20 years from now, or whatever date you want to put it, we have to sit down and work out what is the threat perception going to be then. Who is going to be on top? who's going to be your major rival, who's going to be an opponent to you, who's going to be your friend. Where are the markets and where are the resources for you to develop your economy? Who are going to be your economic rivals, your technological masters? So, you have to work out a kind of a plan for 2024. Let's just give it 20 years. Uske baad, then you have to sit down and see what are the resources you've got. What are the resources you need to be relevant to the government in 2024? How do you work for it? 5 7 7 10 साल तो लगेंगे इंटेलिजेंस ऑफिसर को मैच्योर होने में. तो अगर अभी नहीं शुरू करेंगे तो तब कब करेंगे? यही है ना कि you have to plan and work out from now and see what are the talent that you will need, what are the languages you will need, what particular expertise you will need, and you don't know where technology is going to take you. Just don't know. कुछ साल पहले तो artificial intelligence was just something that was talked about in books. But now it's there, it's real. So what next? Artificial intelligence is very good for you. It can be lethal also. There's a dark side to technology. They give you medical assistance, they give you weapons, they give you biological warfare. So it works both ways. Which is the one that we're going to choose? And how are we going to prevent the other one? These are larger security, intelligence, diplomatic issues that we have to take into account today. Economic issues as well, take into account for the future. We know that if you're wealthy, you are powerful. If you're powerful, you're wealthy. America became rich first before it became powerful in the early 20th century, end of 19th. Rockefellers and Carnegies and all built that country up. Now they're so powerful that all the wealth is controlled by them. If the wealth is controlled, everything else follows. So how are you going to acquire that? By having a system that gives you advanced information and the ability for the government, for this system to acquire the means to get that, or help agencies get the means to get you that information. So that's how we are placed in life. Lots to be done. We have a long way to go. There will be obstacles for us, lots of obstacles. Nobody wants a second Asiatic economic superpower.
A lot said in that line, sir. A lot said in that single line.
Yes.
Nobody wants a second Asiatic superpower. सर अडेप्टेशन टू हमारी एजेंसीज ने किस तरीके से अडेप्ट किया है जो इमर्जिंग थ्रेट्स आए हैं. एक तो साइबर वॉरफेयर की तो हम बात कर ही रहे हैं, साथ के साथ
मेरे को 20 साल हो गए रिटायर होके.
जी
मैंने ना उनसे कभी पूछा है, ना उन्होंने मेरे को बताया, ना मैं पूछूंगा.
सर आपने ऑब्जर्व तो किया होगा.
आई डोंट नो. यहाँ देखने से कुछ पता नहीं लगता.
अच्छा,
things are happening, they must be doing it. So that's how I presume. They must be doing it well. So otherwise, there would have been a lot more talk about it. So let's just assume that they're doing it well.
Okay. Sir, what role did Indian agencies play in key foreign policy decisions such as relations with Pakistan and China? क्योंकि हमारे ये दोनों ही नेबर्स बहुत ही अच्छे हैं, इतने अच्छे हैं कि इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज को हमेशा सोचते रहना पड़ता है. मतलब चैन की नींद नहीं लेने देते हैं. जी.
Broadly, I would say that the intelligence agencies have always been able to collect the kind of information required for our policymakers to take the decisions, mostly. And it's always been, Pakistan was the major headache for a long time. But I do see that there's nothing that Pakistan can do to change our way of life. We have progressed despite them. We've progressed despite China. So there must be something good we are doing. So let's take comfort in that. You've jumped from point A to 3, this in 10, 11, 12 years. How did you do it? There must be something intrinsically good in the Indian leadership and the civil service and the people that we've got here. Despite all the kinds of objections and disturbances created. 2021, the strikes and the farmers' strike and the Shaheen Bagh and all those sorts of things we had. Despite that, we are where we are. We could have been better, of course. We could have been even better than this. Could have done better, but doesn't matter. We've got at least so far. So कहीं तो ठीक किया ही होगा ना, वरना तो गिर गए होते.
सर बांग्लादेश में हमसे भूल हुई क्या, हमसे चूक हुई जो बांग्लादेश का इतना बड़ा सब कुछ हो गया है.
I really don't know कि भूल हुई कि I really confess I must. Well, then I'm not following Bangladesh as cleanly as others were, so I was surprised. And although one knew that the lady was not the same in popularity as before, but there's one thing you must bear in mind about Bangladesh. देखिए इनकी शुरुआत जो हुई थी, डायरेक्ट एक्शन डे किसने करवाया था 1946 में?
जिन्ना
हाँ, हुसैन सुहरावर्दी बंगाली था.
हाँ, leadership
He became the prime minister also. I think twice or thrice he was prime minister. Hussain Mohammad Surawardi. उसने direct action करवाया था in Calcutta. That is when they decided that they would split the country. Okay. Now that ethos has gone on. There were differences between East Pakistan and West Pakistan for a long time on language issues and other issues, or representational issues. फिर उनका जब elections हुई 1970 के, तो Bhutto wouldn't give charge to Sheikh Mujib because he had won the majority, but they wouldn't let him. And then you know what happened, 71. And Sheikh Mujib came to Bangladesh in December 1972. August 75, he was killed. 73, 74, 2.5 साल में.
2.5 साल में.
पौने 3 साल में. He and his family were brutally massacred, and army in another garb eventually took over, and then they ran the government, and it became more and more Islamic. Ziaur Rahman, Hussain Muhammad Irshad, his wife, Zia's wife, she ran the government again. Then came, for one short spell, we had Sheikh Hasina, and then BNP again, and now again we had this lady, Hasina again, all these years. But throughout, it had been she was on a downward slope. So when 72, when the war happened, there was a big chunk of Bengalis, East Bengalis, who didn't want to, who were not with the Awami League. They wanted to be they were with the Pakistan army, the Jamaat Islami folks, what they called the Bihari Muslims. So there was this spark of Islamism in Bangladesh, which has now come up front. That's how I look at it. Baki, how it happened, who contributed, they all say it was a regime change organized. Looks like it. There are the way it was done, the way the new interim chief was planted. Actually, to me, it looks more like an army coup with this man in charge as the interim advisor of the
या
entire
वहाँ
India.
या
Huh?
वहाँ
Huh.
या हाँ
So
यावर
he,
या something like
huh?
that.
क्या चीज?
The army chief is already taking control, sir. अभी
हाँ, उसने तो मैजिस्ट्रेट्स लगा दिए हैं अपने सब जगह.
हाँ मैजिस्ट्रेसी राइट दे दिए हैं 60 days के लिए.
So all this is going on. It's a and typically of any regime change that takes place, the first thing that is done is the to kill metaphorically, to lock up or sideline or keep them out of business, is the previous government and its workers or its establishment. ये भी हो रहा है वहाँ. शेख हसीना को तो भेज ही दिया और बाकियों को भी they've sidelined or arrested or locked up or sent them off. So this is going to be a bit of a struggle for India. It's going to be a difficult period getting back. And but there is also a limit up to which Bangladesh can go on this. After all, economically they are dependent. Their boundary on three sides. So it's not so easy for them to run a government without some Indian help.
Right.
अभी तो it's early days. Let's see how they figure it out. अभी तो उनकी क्रिकेट टीम ही आई हुई है शायद.
नहीं सर हमारी क्रिकेट टीम बांग्लादेश गई हुई है. That is why we were very very sad about it actually. क्योंकि
हमारी
वहाँ
टीम
पे
गई है, उनकी आ रही है.
नहीं सर हमारी टीम गई हुई है ढाका.
That's terrible.
Especially in the context of the background that the Hindus are being continuously targeted, minorities are being targeted, other minorities also being targeted. ये बहुत ही
Yeah,
गलत move था, but what do you say?
I don't know. I wouldn't if I had been asked to give my advice, I would have said don't send.
No, they are playing cricket now.
Must have
Sir,
some other reasons, I don't know.
I think वो पहले से decided था. That was pre-decided before even this happened. ये जो 5th August को हुआ, उससे पहले से ही वो tournament decided था. But I think it can always be called off. जब Black
Sure.
Lives Matter के नाम पर बहुत सारी foreign की cricket teams, they can bow down, they can object, they can raise their point of views, and why
बहुत कुछ
not
कर
us?
सकते. It
Yes,
can give you
why
a lot
not?
of create a lot of embarrassing situations.
Right. सर क्योंकि हम बांग्लादेश के बारे में बात करें तो इसलिए मैं उसी लाइन में कंटिन्यू करूंगी. हमारी इंटेलिजेंस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस वर्सेस यूएस इंटेलिजेंस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस वर्सेस इजराइल वर्सेस चाइना, लाइक कंपैरेटिव एनालिसिस. जी
Difficult question.
तभी तो आप है. आपसे ही तो डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन पूछूंगी. जी सर.
Intelligence agencies cooperate when it is necessary. They don't cooperate when it is not desirable. So I don't know what was the game going on behind that. I know as much as you know about this particular episode of what happened in Bangladesh. I doubt if the Indians had any direct link with US on this. I don't think so.
So what I meant by my question is their strength and weaknesses, something of that sort. Obviously, cooperation तो it's always on need basis, point basis. अच्छा तो आपने ये information दी, मैं आपको दे रहा हूँ ये information. It's kind of an exchange or a barter system, can be said.
You can't compare the four organizations, really. US is a superpower with global interests, with lots of money, and an ethos which has always been different, an ethos that we are the first ones. We will do it. We are the best, and we need this information and whatever. Chinese work on a different pattern. They work on the pattern that you get me the information or else. You know, they have a law which says that if you are posted abroad, you're outside, you're bound by law to provide intelligence to the intelligence organizations. This is meant for the diaspora. हमारे डायस्पोरा पे आप ऐसे बोल सकते हैं? नहीं ना,
सवाल ही नहीं उठते हैं.
सवाल ही नहीं उठता. So that is the third thing. And they're also a major power. Their resources is not a problem for them. The Israelis are a country which is surrounded by enemies who swear to annihilate them. So they are fighting a battle. It's an existential battle for them. No wonder they're so good. No wonder they're so good. We are on the rise. We are going to be showing more and more activity, I think, as our interests grow abroad, as our requirements grow abroad, as our threat perceptions increase. We will simply have to get better. We will just have to do it. Because you can't fight a 20th, 21st century war of any kind with 20th century systems. So we'll get there. These are the four you talked about, no?
China, USA, Israel,
And us.
yeah, and India, and India.
Yeah.
So,
So we're there, the top 10. We've been listed in many intelligence assessments or वो बनाते हैं ना chart, which is the best. We're there, number 9 or 10. Mossad is normally number 1. That's okay. We are not. We're not.
we're not far behind in
I,
the top 5, I believe, right now.
sorry, no, I don't. We are
I see we are
not.
in top 5 right now. This is how I see the system, at least from outside.
Well, that sounds very good. Thank you.
So what about Pakistan? Sir, हम उसको कैसे छोड़ दें जो हमारे सबसे बगल में और सबसे notorious neighbor है हमारा?
Pakistan has no inhibitions, no restrictions like the kind we have. We're a democracy. We run by rules. We run by budgets. We run by, how do you justify this? Why do you want this additional facility, or what do you want to open a new station? You have to tell the government all that. They are the government. They decide कि क्या करना है हमने. So that's what I said. We are not Gestapo now. We are an intelligence organization. वो तो भेज देते हैं, किसी को उठाना है तो उठा के ले जाते हैं, पकड़ के बंद कर देते हैं. They do it so often and lock them up, and then they harbor considerable talent when they have people like Hafiz Saeed and Masood Askar as their fighting battalions. So उनको भी संभाल के रखना है इन्होंने. Masood Azhar types, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, name it or what you have it. Of course, now they may be having problems with their own creation, like the Taliban, to let them stew in their juice. There's nothing we can do. But they're good in what they did. Professionally, if you want me to say anything, well, the Mumbai 2008 was a well-organized operation. If that man had not been caught, there would have been no proof. So that was required a lot of planning, a lot of guts, everything. पर कर दिया उन्होंने, मुंबई को तो हिला दिया।
हाँ, हमेशा के लिए, एटलीस्ट फॉर नेक्स्ट 50 years,
सॉरी,
एटलीस्ट फॉर नेक्स्ट 50 years।
नहीं इतना ज्यादा नहीं कहो।
हमारी मेमोरी बहुत छोटी है।
But another 10 years it was over. Now it's over. We can't repeat that without a major war.
सर अगर मैं पंचिंग लाइन बोलूँ तो आई थिंक दिस इज हाउ वी विल से इट, every Chinese is this intelligence guy.
Hmm.
Every Israeli, by choice or by force, every Israeli is committed to intelligence. There is a
Hmm.
difference. Every Israeli is intelligence by force, probably. Every Israeli is committed to his intelligence by heart and soul. Every USA has, American citizen has self-interest spying, maybe, or very limited.
Hmm.
And Indians का तो हमारा तो सर
India?
इंडिया की हमारी एजेंसीज हैं, आई वुड पुट इट दैट वे।
Okay. All right. Good.
है ना सर? सो इट इज दैट वे। सो मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, हमारी इंटेलिजेंस एनालिसिस किस तरीके से इन्फ्लुएंस करती है हमारी स्ट्रैटेजिक मिलिट्री प्लानिंग को एंड नेशनल सिक्योरिटी को?
You know, when you get information, first you get information. First you get data. Then you put that data together and sift out the information from the trash. From the information you make knowledge. Why is it adding to my knowledge or not? And from knowledge will lead to assessment for the government. So these are the steps we normally would want to take to determine what is to be done in a particular situation, or what is your report or assessment on the situation. Periodically this is done. There are periodic reports governments keep asking, daily, monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, annual, where you sit down and discuss all the possibilities and work out a paper, and the government then sits down and thinks, does what it has to do. That used to be the system. I think that system still prevails. And for external, they normally go to RAW. For internal, they go to IB. For military, they consult both the RAW and the military. And for technical intelligence, I don't think they file in reports directly. They are a feeding agency. They feed to the armed forces, they feed to the RAW, they feed to the IB, and then with other information that you already have, you match it and then prepare your report. That, I think, is the system that is in existence. So, does that answer your query on how the system works?
Once these systems are fed, तो उसके बाद में probably you decide where are the SWOT analysis is done, the strength, weaknesses, and accordingly
That you do not for every case, but sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you just give a situation report, a report
based
about
on these we prepare our.
just one requirement or one threat perception only. If you want to do an overall thing, then you do a SWOT.
And these decide the kind of weapons we buy, हमारे neighbors में क्या चल रहा है, या हमारी किस wing को ज़्यादा strong करना है, navy को
RAW
strong.
doesn't interfere with that. No, we don't do that. That's for the armed forces.
Okay,
Based on what they know, what they might have been told by RAW and everybody else, open source information. They know that the Chinese have got this or the Pakistanis have got this, and what is the counter to that? They decide. We don't do anything. We might have information that they are going to buy something and tell them. And it's up to them to decide what they want to do with that information.
So ये open source को sideline करना possible है या नहीं है? Or everything is going to be
I
on
don't
open
think
source?
it is required to be
No
sidelined. I
problem
think it's an
nowadays.
asset actually.
Asset.
Because 90% of your intelligence observations and assessments are from open sources. It's the crucial 10%, 15% that is sort of behind the wall. that you need to know. That comes from these agencies. And we provide them, hopefully, the rest to fill in the blanks. But there are organizations that deal only with open source information and give their inputs only on that. Because it's so much material out there, so much of written word and spoken word and on TV channels that you can't just leave it to one agency to do all that.
राइट कि मैं इसलिए पूछ रही हूँ बिकॉज कई बार ऐसा भी तो होता होगा बहुत सारी चीजें जो ओपन सोर्स डोमेन्स में नहीं आ सकती हैं सपोज वेपन्स का डेवलपमेंट है अच्छा वी हर्ड इट एंड प्रॉब्ली से यू कैन कमेंट ऑन दैट वी देयर वाज अ न्यूज आई थिंक कपल ऑफ मंथ्स बैक that China is trying to develop superhumans, especially for the for the mountainous regions, because the kind of people they have, it is difficult for them to adjust in the low oxygen environment, and they are not mountain warriors. Like many of our battalions or sections of armies, they're mountain warriors because they're tuned and they grow in they kind of they're born and brought up in those areas. So उनके लिए आसान होता है. But Chinese are typically bad in those areas. तो ऐसे भी न्यूज आ रही थी बहुत सारी मतलब एक या दो न्यूज आई एंड देन इट वाज आई आफ्टर दैट आई वाज सर्चिंग कि मेरे को इस पे एपिसोड करना है आई वांट टू मेक अ शो ऑन दिस एंड देन आई कुडंट फाइंड इट वाज जस्ट गॉन बूम इट वाज ओवर
Probably either somebody let it out without realizing what he was doing, or that it was fake news anyway, so it was dropped. We don't know. I haven't heard of it.
Is it possible to hide such मतलब any kind of a major development क्योंकि आप बार बार open source की बात करें इसलिए मैं उधर जा रही थी is it possible for them कि intelligence network can't detect or pick up such things which are being being hidden from open source?
I'm sure for in some cases it is possible to wipe the slate clean and it just disappears. If you are yourself the creator of that news, you can make it disappear. If you send me the information and I save it and tuck it away somewhere, then it may not happen like this. But आप ही ने बनाया, आप ही ने हटा दिया, तो I suppose it is gone logically. So I don't know whether it came from Chinese sources or somebody planted it on the Chinese and then it was thrown out and then taken away. Strange things happen in this world.
So that is why they say on a lighter note, बड़े-बड़े देशों में छोटी-छोटी बातें होती रहती हैं. So this is being said. Sir, do our intelligence जब मैं भारत की बात कर रही हूँ, सिर्फ भारत की जो हमारी इंटेलिजेंस है, क्या उससे जो साउथ एशिया की है, मैं बोलूँ कि इंडियन सबकॉन्टिनेंट, जानबूझकर वर्ड साउथ एशिया डाला जा रहा है सो दैट हम इंडियन सबकॉन्टिनेंट वर्ड यूज ना करें. क्या इंडियन सबकॉन्टिनेंट की स्टेबिलिटी पे इम्पैक्ट करता है? और ये क्योंकि बहुत सारे व्यूअर्स हमारे साथ गांव देहात से भी जुड़ते हैं कई बार, तो मैं इसलिए बोलना चाहूंगी कि भारतीय महाद्वीप जब हम बोलते हैं तो इसका मतलब हो गया श्रीलंका, पाकिस्तान, अफगानिस्तान, नेपाल, भूटान, बांग्लादेश, रफली ये एरिया हो गया. तो क्या इन कंट्रीज की स्टेबिलिटी पे इम्पैक्ट आता है जो इंटेलिजेंस हम गैदर करते हैं? जी सर.
I'm not sure if I understood the question. You're saying, do our intelligence activities impinge on their
Contribute to the
stability?
regional stability of the Indian subcontinent.
You know, a weak neighbor, a relatively weak neighbor, a smaller neighbor, if he's not stable, is in itself a threat to your own stability. So it is good to have a stable, friendly neighbor all the time, big or small. हमारे दो जो हैं तो they are nuclear powers and antagonist to us. But the others are not antagonists to us. They also wish to keep their choices open. So they do play with China and with India. And up to a point, it is understandable. Because they are doing it in their perceived interest. So even if you help them in tsunami, or if you help them in any flood situation, or you give them bijli, they will make these kinds of choices again and again. Because their own political stabilities, their own, electoral choices, make them take these decisions on occasions. But there's only that far they can go. So India also must learn to live with this kind of situation in the present world. And हमको अपना, we should preserve our own, and we should look after our own security first, then help them be secure. And that's all we can do.
So last question. India is a diverse country, or we have north to south, east to west, बहुत सारे dialects हैं, बहुत सारी communities हैं. क्या इंटेलिजेंस गैदरिंग में ये इंटरफेयर करता है, मतलब कल्चरल एंड पॉलिटिकल फैक्टर्स इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं इंटेलिजेंस गैदरिंग को?
I don't collect intelligence on India, so I don't know about India, but I can tell you in Europe it matters. You have different languages, you have different ethos, you have different food habits. It
जी.
makes a difference there. So I'm sure, but हमारे यहाँ disadvantages, you can have local people working with you in the same organization. That's how you tide over that. You have people working from the south and or the north or the west and the east in the same organization. They provide the required inputs, experience, knowledge of the region. But yes, I'm sure it would be difficult for a foreigner working in India, because he'd have to contend with so many languages, so many different cultures. So that's why they have consulates in different parts of the country. हमारे यहाँ तो, if you have a consul general in Houston or San Francisco or Chicago, they speak the same language. They have the same religion.
It's easy to conquer a homogeneous population and a homogeneous community than to conquer a diverse nation with plenty of communities, dialects, and
that is true. That is true.
Yeah, so that's why. So how would you like to conclude our topic for today, the role of Indian intelligence in security and foreign relations? Your concluding statements on this topic.
For any statecraft, there are several pillars on which it stands. One is the judiciary, not the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, the media. Then there is, nowadays, we would add two more pillars to this. One is security, which means intelligence, armed forces. Would mean the corporate sector, which is very, very important. We've ignored it for too long. They are an asset to you. They're an asset to you. And the other thing is the Indian society by itself. I don't know whether you can give it all one name, but your Indianness comes from how your society behaves. If that is strong, then everything else is strong. So for security, yes, you have to have an alert intelligence system that delivers the right kind of messages ahead of time, during the crisis and after the crisis, or for long term. It has to have a long-term validity. And this also then adds to your general policies outside. We don't make policy, the organization don't make policy. They only give intelligence fitting with that thing. They may be required to define national interest from time to time, but we don't make policy. We don't act on our own reports. That is left for the executive. Whether he accepts it or whether he wants to, whatever action they want to take, depending on the intelligence, it is for them to decide. unless you're asked. We don't say. When they ask for assessments, that's a different matter.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for joining and answering so many questions. I hope I didn't trouble you much. जाने से पहले सब्सक्राइबर से रिक्वेस्ट है, प्लीज लाइक सब्सक्राइब और शेयर करना ना भूलें, और अगर आप कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहते हैं तो यूपीएस स्क्रीन के ऊपर है। इसी के साथ जय हिंद, जय श्री राम, हर हर महादेव। थैंक यू सो मच, सर।